Hey guys, Granditamias here, and welcome back to another channel update. It has been quite a while since the last time I did one of these, and I must apologize for that, but as you probably know if you've been watching the channel over the last 6 months or so, a lot has happened. We got official confirmation that the CGI Alvin and The Chipmunks series has concluded, I finished up college, I went to Mexico and Peru, and I found a lost draft of the Chipmunk Adventure screenplay. I'm also in the process of finding a new job, so forgive me for uploads becoming less frequent. I want to reassess how often I can pump out new videos, but don't worry, I do already have some very interesting topics planned, and I hope you'll enjoy them. I also hope that you've been enjoying the diversity of content that I have already put out, like the travel videos, as I've mentioned. Chipmunk Elaborations haven't been as frequent, but I would like to ramp those up again, or make them bigger and more special. And as I've said before, just because the most recent TV show is over after almost 10 years, doesn't mean I won't have stuff to talk about. In fact, now that the show is over, you might have noticed that I've put more focus on what we could potentially see out of the next reboot, and what I personally would like to see too. As well as the flaws with Bagdasarian productions like in the CGI series, and even the Chipmunk Adventure. Oddly, I've been pretty lenient to the Fox universe. In fact, I rewatched Road Trip recently, and I realized again why I enjoyed that film so much when it originally came out. Still, I do think Chipwrecked is a little better. Oh, and if you're wondering, yes, I have heard the rumor about Disney working on a new Alvin and the Chipmunks project, but I highly doubt that it's true for reasons I've explained if you've watched me long enough. Besides, I wouldn't be so quick to trust any source with the word scooper in the name. And I'm gonna move on before I lose the resistance to make a WikiLeaks joke. Sonic videos I've been doing when new movie-related stuff comes out. Honestly, I've been debating whether I should discontinue those after the third movie comes out. I know some of you guys really like them, but I don't want to stretch myself too thin at a time when videos in general might become less frequent. So I'm going to limit myself to maybe one topic after each trailer comes out, and then of course the preconceptions and spoiler review videos when the movie itself comes out. And I think the third Sonic movie would be a good place to stop because, while the movies themselves likely won't stop at 3, story-wise, they will be coming to a major crossroads after that. I would still watch future Sonic movies like I always have, but as a separate interest from doing videos on them. Besides, I've already stopped doing trailer reaction videos, so I won't be doing those for the third Sonic movie, just like how I didn't do a trailer reaction for the Transformers 1 trailer. I still can't believe they went with that title. How are we not supposed to get it confused with this Transformers 1? Or this Transformers 1, even though it never got sequels? And what if this movie gets a sequel? Will it be called Transformers 2? Transformers 1, 2? Or something else? I'll probably end up seeing that movie, but the trailer just looked mid. Speaking of Transformers though, I have yet to plan out my next video, and I probably won't be doing as many videos for it this year as I did last year. But my Transformers Prime retrospective ended up really taking off in views, over 50,000 so far, and it's probably the biggest reason why I passed 2,000 subscribers not too long ago. It's been really great reading your guys' comments about your own experiences with the show, a lot of them very similar to my own, surprisingly. I am going to highlight a few more during the comment response section, but I can only make this video so long, so I won't be able to feature as many as I'd like, unfortunately. And it was very hard to narrow down the most interesting ones. So if you posted a comment and it didn't get featured, I do apologize. Though it seems like you guys really want a Cybertronian biology video, so I really would like that to be the next Transformers-related video that I do. The last really big thing I want to talk about before getting to the comments is the several Ruby Gillman videos I've made. Yeah, I still love this movie, even though it's been a year now since it came out. I swear, I have seen this movie no less than 100 times, and I know every line and sound effect so well that I can play the movie in my head, much like I can for the Alvin and the Chipmunks films. Despite that, I'm not sure if I should keep making Ruby Gillman videos indefinitely if it's not going to become a franchise, but they've been getting decent views, and I'm not out of ideas just yet. I still want to do a concept art video like I've talked about in the past, and if I include some of the other deleted scenes I didn't get to cover the first time, I could probably split the video into 2 parts. But yeah, I enjoyed making the ones that I already have, especially the Everything Wrong with CinemaSins video. That was really fun. And I hope that the love for this floppy baby guppy girl can be kept alive. Please, DreamWorks, give me franchise! Aside from that, I don't have too much else to say that's new, but I have seen a lot of really good movies this year, like Dune 2, as you would expect, Kung Fu Panda 4, I enjoyed that one. Don't care what the haters say. Godzilla and Kong, the new Planet of the Apes. A friend of mine took me to see The Fall Guy. Furiosa, that film is a masterpiece. And a few days ago, right as I was almost finished editing this video, I saw Fly Me to the Moon. If you've seen any of those, let me know your thoughts on them. Okay, on to the comment response, starting with the Alvin and the Chipmunks questions. First up is... Well, I only got one thing to say about this.
Don't take it personally. Oh, hell no!
Okay, next up is a comment from Gleeful Chibi, and this is in response to a comment of hers that I brought up in another video. And she says, just to clarify some things about Nick Alive, it's not an official Nickelodeon-run news site. It's a blog run by a fan of Nickelodeon, like how Chibi runs Chipmunk Mania. So they have access to the same amount of information regarding the series as we do. Whoever runs the blog is just really dedicated to getting news out, which is why they're such a reliable source. As far as the storyboard scene is concerned, my theory is this. It's a dream sequence from the tour episode itself. It could be that the original script for the episode included a scene where Alvin has a nightmare about returning from the tour to find everything has changed. It would make a little more sense than having Dangus actually teaching at the school. The episode itself confirms that they'd be missing the rest of the school year, so they wouldn't even still be in Miss Smith's class when they returned anyway. We've seen storyboards with deleted or altered scenes before, so it's not that unlikely, but unless we were to see the original script or the full storyboard episode itself, we'd never really know for sure. Thank you for the comment, Chibi. It was very well worded and paragraphed, and I look for things like that. Really appreciate it. But yeah, I will own up to my mistake about assuming that Nick Alive was an official source. I don't know how that happened. Maybe it was the ads on the side for other Paramount-related properties, but that could have just been a contextualized ad. Though this does lend credence to one of the options that I said in my previous video where someone from Nick Alive might have seen the Monk Media interview. But as for the storyboard scene, I certainly won't rule out that it could have been from the tour. In fact, one of my big complaints with that episode is that it wasn't double length like the Christmas special, so maybe this scene could have been from a 22-minute version, but they cut it down to 11 minutes. However, the scene itself does go on for about 2 minutes, which for a dream sequence in the series is kind of long. Usually they don't last more than a minute. And it also means that Alvin dreams about things like Cheesy hitting on Eleanor. Like, what the hell? Like, regardless of it being a dream, like, seriously, no one asked for this Bagdasarian. But yeah, hopefully more cut material about that does come to light in the future. Who knows? Maybe I'll find it. Hemmick says, have you ever thought about making an elaboration video on whether or not Alvin has ADHD? Well, I doubt it, because personally, I have 2 younger brothers with ADHD, and trust me, Alvin is a lot more mellow compared to them. Francisco Peralta says, I just hope Hasbro will pick up the slack. Well, yeah, like I said in one of my older elaborations, I do think Hasbro would be a good fit, but unfortunately, I don't think that's super likely at the moment, financially wise, considering that Mattel kicked their ass at the box office last summer. Yeah, but like I said, I do think that their media divisions could do a lot with Alvin and the Chipmunks, and hopefully we'd get a good toy line out of it too. Halsey says, I think if this is the end of the show, which it seems it is, they should focus on albums like they did in the 90s when there was a gap between the TV series and the CGI movies. And I totally agree with this because even during the TV series, album releases were pretty scant, and I really don't see why they were so, because, well, music is like the Chipmunks' bread and butter, so yeah, I think it would be nice to have new album releases to tie us over until the next big TV show or movie reboot happens. I got 2 comments here from Swirlgate, who asks, Granditamias, what is your favorite Alvin and the Chipmunks movie? I would have to say The Chipmunk Adventure for reasons I've already explained in several other videos if you know me well enough. But yeah, even though I have been dunking on the movie recently, now that we have the script and pointing out its imperfections, it's just a really big, it's an 80s thrill movie, and it's just a lot of fun. There's not really too much to explain about it. It's just, it is what it is, and I like the music and the adventure aspect. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. As for the second question, what is my favorite character from the first movie, from every character from 2007? I'm not really sure about characters specific to that movie, because really they're not super memorable. but I guess favorite character overall from that movie, and really all the movies, is Simon, because he's the smart one, like me. Joe World says, first of all, congratulations on graduating college. I just graduated from high school myself. Oh, congratulations to you too. This was a fantastic video and very funny. I laughed at least 7 times. Thank you. I try to be funny. I also wonder how the Chipmunks would feel about Peru. Simon would probably love the culture and learning about the artifacts and knowledge. Theodore would probably love all the food and maybe learn more about cooking. And Alvin would probably just sleep the whole time and be very bored. P.S. You're a very good drawer. That Chicana looks very well drawn. Oh, well, thank you. But yeah, I totally agree with how the Chipmunks would act if they were visiting Peru, like to sightsee and all that, instead of how they just did in the Chipmunk Adventure where they went to Machu Picchu just to drop off one of the diamond dolls. Gamundary, that name, says, about the digital circus plushies, those are probably bootlegs because many bootleg companies exist in Latin American countries. And yeah, I know that from experience all too well, both in other markets that I saw in Peru, as well as when I was in Mexico, like these knockoff Constructicons that I saw. But yeah, if these plushies are knockoffs, they were probably made to capitalize on the success of the amazing digital circus, which would mean, like I said, that it is popular enough down there that there would be a market for that. In his set says, in regards to my Dreadwing video, why didn't he get a payback match against Bumblebee? After all, he was the one who ripped out Skyquake's circuits and took his spark. We only got it in the Prime game, and unfortunately that's not canon. Well, even though Bumblebee did kill Skyquake, it was still under Optimus Prime's command, and he even takes responsibility for it later. But as for the video game, I did play that one when I was younger, and I always thought it was weird that it didn't line up with any point of the Transformers Prime TV show. Also, that Bumblebee versus Dreadwing fight was pretty hard. It took me a couple tries before I got to beat it. Shockwave12 says, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner with Rise of the Beasts. The next movie villain would have to be Megatron or, well, Megatron but a dinosaur. Saving them for the third movie would be a waste because by then, Unicron will most surely be front and center, and if they put both or one Megatron in the sequel, they would need to be a big deal, not somebody sidelined. Not to mention, you would have to introduce 2 different Megatrons. Rip general audiences who won't understand, and leaving Meg out would be such a waste. And I totally agree with this because, as much as I would like to see the Beast Wars Megatron in the live-action Transformers movies, it also does kind of diminish the presence of the regular Megatron. And if they go down this route of prequels and decade hopping, then they're going to get to 2007 eventually, and they'll have to address the Megatron problem. But otherwise, yeah, he's just going to keep losing relevance. Bonobobot says, I agree with the fact that other characters could have filled certain roles better. I don't like when the personality of one character is placed onto another, or when an unrelated character is given a pre-existing name. I'd love the core of the character to be maintained. And I certainly agree with this, though to be fair, every Transformers series after Generation 1 does this to some extent. Even Beast Wars, even though it's in the same universe as G1, some of the Beast characters will use names of G1 characters. Though, as long as we're adapting G1 characters, I think there is some leeway. And with other characters, I do think there is some warrant to it. Like with Bulkhead, he wasn't in G1, and I will be kind of biased because the Prime series was my introduction to that character. And even after watching animated, I do think that the Prime version is a much better version of Bulkhead. And others like Ultra Magnus, I think, are fine. I think they're changed just enough to fit within the universe of Prime, but aren't too unfaithful to G1. Mackenzie Carver says, this is my all-time favorite Transformers series, even above G1. I have some issues with it and some personal want, like instead of having Bulkhead and Smokescreen, I personally would have had Ironhide and Hot Rod. And I totally agree with this too. In fact, during the development of Transformers Prime, Ironhide was going to be the muscle member of the team instead of Bulkhead, but because the movie version of Ironhide was going to be killed off in Dark the Moon, Hasbro didn't want kids to be confused with a living Ironhide. Which is kind of stupid because Dark of the Moon killed off Wheeljack, Megatron, Starscream, Soundwave, and Shockwave, and they all appeared alive in Transformers Prime after the movie came out. At least we got a good character in Bulkhead out of it, though as a kid I was kind of upset that Ironhide never appeared in the show, despite having a toy based on his Prime design. Songol says, here's hoping they have something big for Chaos and Tikal. Maybe Tikal was thought to have been killed by an owl, or she prayed to chaos and fused with him, so we'll get a Chaos Tikal fusion monster. Oh, well, I see someone read the Sonic Universe comic. But in all honesty, I do think the Knuckles series presents some kinda, hard-to-believe justifications for, Tikal being dead, if she is dead. For example, because Tikal is normally very pacifistic, I highly doubt that she would have been killed in battle by one of the owls. And even if not in battle, well, honestly, I don't think that Longclaw is the kind of character who would have killed Tikal being defenseless. I think that she would have had compassion and let Tikal live. That is, unless they really do decide to commit to the darker side of the owls and make Longclaw a full-on antagonist. Science Show says, I'm curious about something. We see the Trident of Oceanus empower Nerissa and turn her into a giant, but what happened when a human or Kraken used the Trident of Oceanus? Does it turn a normal Kraken into a giant Kraken or something else? You know, it's kind of interesting that the first poster for Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken shows Grandmama wielding the full-size Trident of Oceanus, but this never occurs in the film. Even after Ruby retrieves the Trident, it doesn't grow in size until Nerissa gets her hands on it, and I think the reason why might have something to do with something I brought up in my Everything Wrong with CinemaSins video. In that video, I mentioned that Nerissa has a connection to Oceanus. Her namesake, the Nereids of Greek mythology, were the granddaughters of Oceanus, so perhaps that genetic link is how she's able to wield the Trident. I don't know if this would be limited only to her because she's royalty, or if all mermaids have this ability. My guess would be all mermaids, but I don't know, that's just my headcanon, I think. But I'm totally open to any other suggestions for the explanation. Michael says, I can reconcile Chelsea killing Krakens while also being Nerissa's kid. Mermaids do age, just slower, so she could have killed a few, just not as much as Mama. Well, I mean, the storyboard doesn't necessarily say that Chelsea didn't kill a giant Kraken, though since her role is the same as Nerissa in the movie, my guess is that they changed her to be Nerissa to tack on that already established plot thread of Nerissa having killed other giant Krakens to make her more intimidating, even though, like I said, that really didn't work out in the end. But logically, mermaids would have to age up to a point. It's not like Nerissa doesn't have a mother. Maybe they can live for centuries or millennia and that they do die of old age at some point. Or maybe they're like lobsters and that they don't displace in essence. The Rogue Command says, excellent video, sir. I know it's a cliche at this point to say that the storyboards were better when it comes to Ruby Gillman, but I do wish we'd gotten a better look at the Kraken history and world building. Agatha has so much potential for depth and moral ambiguity. You know, one of the biggest criticisms I've heard about Ruby Gillman, besides everything else that I've already mentioned, is how it handles the generational trauma trope. But I honestly think it handles it pretty well, and I wish we had gotten more of that, like with Agatha's remorse. But I bring up this comment because I think another side effect of changing the twist to where Chelsea is Nerissa kind of makes the need for a connection between her and Agatha superfluous. If the connection is based on remorse, then that's suddenly removed if Agatha never did anything wrong and only just wrestled the Trident away from Nerissa and sent her fleeing. Renaissance Cascade says, Texas toast. Yeah, that was one of my favorite sins for that video. And, yeah, I filmed that at my local H-E-B. If you don't know what an H-E-B is, it's the grocery store chain of Texas. But yeah, I really like how that sin turned out. Sonic Fan 3 says, can you please watch the DreamWorks Trolls movies and review them? You know, had I answered this question 3 months ago when this comment was first posted, I would have said no. But I've actually been having a Trolls obsession recently after I, out of curiosity, checked out Trolls 3 while on my flight to Lima. And since getting back to the States, I have rewatched the first Trolls movie, as well as watching the second Trolls movie for the first time. And I've also been watching the Trolls The Beat Goes On series on Netflix. But honestly, there's nothing really specific about the films that I have any interest in doing videos on, so I could maybe do a video reviewing the movies and maybe defending them, explaining why they're good, but that's a big maybe. However, I will be bringing Trolls up again in a future video. I can't really say why or for what, but I will be mentioning them again. Oh, but I will say that I am 99% sure that this moment in Trolls Band Together was definitely a reference to Ruby Gillman. Come on, you see it too, right? And that wraps things up for this update video. As always, if you have a question that you would like me to answer in the next one, feel free to leave it in the comments section. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed, have a nice day, and thank you for your time.